My newest title, Goetia of Shadows, was published rather recently, and I'd like to give some foundation and some background, and also some differences and some various comparisons from the first Luciferian Goetia published about 2005. It was worked throughout the late 90s into the early 2000s. The Goetia of Shadows is a obvious continuation at random times from the period of like 2005 until 2009, 2010, but added in with a lot of research and some background. There's many different Goetias, Keys of Solomon, that have recently been published in the past few years that are excellent in kind of shedding some light on the foundations where these things came from to make what we now know as the Goetia. Obviously, a lot of Satanists and occultists who come into the left-hand path, their introduction to ceremonial magic, and this I can speak previous, is Goetia. And then you get stuck with materializing something, the ceremonial thing where you have this Christian duality, and I've discussed that in previous videos. But this specific Goetia of Shadows is different because it addresses magic from a historical, mythological, and religious pre-Christian foundation, the Greek origins and necromancy, which in turn kind of bring in all the ritual instruments we're used to today. Those were all used in necromancy, communicating with spirits of the dead, shades of the dead, offering libations or drinks, liquids poured out in honor and respect for the possibility of that spiritual communion. All of those things, feeding the spirit's blood, nourishing them, is something used in some of the darker areas of Goetia or Goetic sorcery to materialize a spirit. I can tell you today that you would benefit, especially if you're a Luciferian or someone new to the left-hand path ideology, to take Goetia of Shadows, start at the beginning, and slowly tear down the previous belief systems that you were brought up in. More than likely they were not left-hand path, because then you're going to find out that Luciferianism and the reason that it is expanding in the way that it is, and really setting a new example, is that it's neither good or evil. No Luciferian that I've known in previous years or in my early workings believes in a Judaic God or Yahweh or Christ or the devil. Don't exist, because you have to start in the beginnings of religion. And if you study these, I've tried to lay some groundwork for people with Mask 'em Whole and different things like this. You're going to find that the gods and the demons of early pantheons always have creative and destructive elements, some more than others in different areas, just like humans. So we have to understand, and that's why I call them deific masks. They're gods, or specific examples of energy that you put on and make a part of yourself. Those energies, representing a different aspect of the subconscious, will take form. And by thinking about them with sigils and so forth, those spirits find a manifestation based on your will and desire. Start with the foundation of ritual work. It's to ensorcell, encircle, and bring forth your desire into flesh. And that desire always takes the form of a spirit, which you will not physically see. If you go through the effort of materializing something with smoke or whatever that is, you're wasting more energy than it's worth to say, oh wow, look at my cool trick. Where it counts at the end of the day is What result have you obtained? What have you gotten from this working? Why did you perform it? If people contact me and say, hey, I want to summon demons, can you help me? And if you ask them why, and they say, I just want to experience it, well, I can't help people like that, because you have to have a purpose for everything you do. If you're looking for some religious experience, the dark side kind of match of what you were brought up in, that kind of exaltation, you're not going to find it unless you go within. You have to begin within. And I'm not telling you, don't believe, don't be atheistic or theistic. I'm not telling you that at all. I'm not trying to shape your worldview. I'm trying to get every single left-hand path practitioner, even new Luciferians, to start within first. And I mean that in a way that you make yourself the temple. Try these workings in my grimoires. Keep a record, a basic record, and then go back and see about how your results turn out. You'll find it's quite a interesting experience. The one thing with the Goetia of Shadows, it's kind of the evolved, grown-up, remanifested Luciferian Goetia. There's additions to the spirit descriptions based on workings I've done, research, but also different ways of working with them in a pragmatic, reasonable way in today's world. There's no bullshit. There's no secret black brotherhood, etc., etc. This is real sorcery, real magic based on the foundation of different pantheons in sorcery and antiquity, all the way up to the Middle Ages. What we took out of the Goetia is Yahweh, Christ, all of those Christian concepts, and we replaced it with the darkness being your foundation, your fuel, your therionic or beast-like desire within that you raise up in yourself. The first few sections of the Goetia of Shadows provide definitions of Luciferian magic and what deific mass gods, different examples of how these evolved into the demons and Lucifer-type deific mass that we know today. The cover is very important, and the image of Lucifer in that the artist Adam Iniquity did a fantastic job of working with me towards fleshing out a semi-anthropomorphic image of the deific mask of Lucifer, which I'm going to go into in just a moment. But when you get this Goetia, no matter if you get the color or you get the softcover black and white, start in the beginning. Read it and apply it to yourself. Then you'll be ready for the next step. As you get your copies of Goetia of Shadows, one of the first areas of interest beyond the historical foundation I discuss is a very often overlooked area in sorcery and magic. You'll find this specific means of expression to be the foundation of all religious workings, all religious practice, and magical witchcraft, sorcery, necromancy. All of that is founded on the way, or what could be called the word. Speech, sound, vibration are very, very important in all magical workings that you do, even if they're done solitary in a meditational aspect. In the Goetia of Shadows, one specific section early on is called Words of Power. As I mentioned, the use of sound vibration in incantation, invocation, evocation, also meditation is very important, because these vibrations will activate areas in your mind to enter what people call gnosis. Gnosis is the state of perpetual communion with your daemon and also the spirit world around you, if you perceive that or not. If you're an atheist, you don't believe in that, have no experiences with that, well, it activates chemicals in your brain which work well towards your specific symbolic ideal. Okay, so it doesn't matter what view you come from, as long as you can actually do the working. And don't try to overstretch it. Like if you're an atheist, don't try to just completely believe that there's something going to rise up out of your floor, because most likely that will not happen, and it will not, and oftentimes the imagination, if you're an atheist or in that certain train of thought, will not lend itself towards making that happen. Now, if you're doing workings and you have occurrences like knocks on walls, things that happen and no one's there, things fall over, you feel cold wind like over you, gives you goosebumps or something like that, well, that's different. That might begin to change your perception, but some people think that the will alone will cause those things to happen. So, voces magicae, or magical voice, or words used in like shadow tongue, for instance. If you go to Luciferian witchcraft, my kind of breakthrough, the siege which broke the wall, if you will, for me, once I had communion with Azal Lucel, my daemon, was the Utuk Dino. And I'm actually working on several things with the Utuk Dino for the future. It's an ongoing passion. However, when I developed Shadow Tongue from different steotas, or kind of like symbolic vibratory words, I created such an effect in myself that it opened gateways to kind of deeper knowledge in how things correlate in the practice of magic, how this specific working will have an effect down the road on these several things, and it's like a domino effect. So I can tell you that was my first experience. However, when it comes to throwing yourself into invocation, Aleister Crowley was perfect in describing that you lose yourself and thrill yourself and lose your mind in invocation. And you become highly enthused. And Anton Szandor LaVey also said, when you enter the ritual chamber, then you use your imagination. You believe in that fantasy to be a specific reality, as if you are coexisting with the forces that you're calling, because they're a part of you. That belief, not blind faith, but that belief will create and activate that aspect in your subconscious to have results. Voices magicae, or what I call shadow tongue, has origins all the way back to Mesopotamia, as you'll see in the Mascom Hole, and ancient Egypt, all the way to early Christianity, when they were in the Greco-Egyptian Coptic spells. Very important in all of the workings you'll do from Goetia onward. The next area I'm going to refer to is the rather newly published ritual working entitled a Greco-Egyptian Invocation for Knowledge of the Personal Daemon, called Akphalos. And it's not necessarily adapted from the Bornless one. Early workings I did around the structure were, however, I got the source material. Crowley's Bornless One ritual is legendary and very effective because I utilized it and adapted from it early daemon or Holy Guardian Angel workings of the true will to develop that in the 90s very successfully. This working will be a very powerful one in that you're embracing the Greco-Egyptian and the early, still not fully Christian engulfed ritual magic process. And all of the different names have specific meaning and purpose within Luciferianism. Even the god of the son of light is actually Luciferian, a creator and a destroyer, much like the symbol of Alexander the Great, a great conqueror, created much, lover of beauty, but also a complete destroyer if something got in his way. But going onward, we're exploring serpent symbolism that's going into like Mascom Hole work through, meaning fertility, darkness, the underworld, immortality of the psyche, etc. This rite is very important when you're beginning a goetic working, communing with a specific sigil spirit for a purpose, in that it's going to align your true will with what you instinctually know you should have to do to attain in this working. I suggest, if you do not like the Coptic or the Greco-Egyptian period, and that kind of chaos magic blend of different cultures into one at that point, to use something that works for you. Mascom Hole, if you have the hardcover, the Nergal, Usumgal edition, there's a working to call the personal god or daemon as well. Obtaining Malamu, or the divine radiance. Going on, you don't have to follow all the steps in the Goetia of Shadows as far as ceremonial magic workings. You can do something as simple as have the invocations. If you have to adapt them, that's fine. I have the sigil of Belial, which I've used for years. If you have to scan it, copy it, put it on a piece of paper, parchment, draw it, do so. If you do it in blood, your own blood, of course, make sure that you have something to glaze over it so it doesn't crust and fall off. Black ink or dragon's blood ink, anything like that is useful. If you're lucky enough to have a talisman of the spirit you're going to work with, then what you do is spend a lot of time vibrating the invocations to the spirit and thinking about what it looks like. Use the images in the book and allow your thumb, your fingers to move over the sigil if it's raised, and you can actually feel them kind of like rail or something. And you're going to imprint in your subconscious meaning with the spirit, so it's going to relate to something. After you do the invocation, the intent, all of those things, then you're going to kind of end the rite, meditate quietly. Now, as I've previously mentioned, when it comes to visualizing the specific spirits that you're working with, I strongly advise that you take your time working, if you're really into the Goetic, the 72 Goetic spirits, take time working with one or two specific ones based on two goals. And the first goal should be something based around theurgy, or what I call Luciferian magic. Creating change within, strengthening the self, testing your will, making yourself in many ways evolve mentally, and how you approach magic, how you obtain results. So there should be a Luciferian magic or higher purpose based on the will and the daemon. When you first get in communion with your daemon, you're not going to have some blinding light pop up in front of you, an angel sit on your shoulder, or something emerge out of the floor and point its finger at you. You're going to know based on your instincts. And while that may sound vague, it's subjective. But you're going to know based on your instincts, and then what you do with the knowledge that you have from those instincts. You apply knowledge towards whatever it is you're driven to. And then that knowledge is going to become interacted with the world around you. You're going to obtain wisdom from that. And that's going to be kind of a power, kind of a wheel that starts rolling. And before you know it, you have this great force behind you. So your daemon is going to be paramount with your goetic workings. Don't adopt your daemon as a specific, complete goetic spirit, or perhaps even another, because it's not that. You don't want to limit your true will, your daemon, because it is your potential and what you visualize your great attainment to be. It's kind of like you as a god or goddess, where you don't care about the petty bullshit of your day-to-day life, or your friends, or who's screwing who, or who's doing what, or work and family and all that. The daemon is the drive. It's the immortal psyche, the aspect of the fiery Musamgalu, or dragon, or angel, if you want to use Christian terms. It's your force, your very illuminated serpent force, the Luciferian spirit. So that's not going to be to that extent. You're going to then take that knowledge of the daemon and apply it towards your will. The second type of working in Goetia of Shadows, do something for nearby instant gratification. What I mean is, if it's something like obtain a better job, you're going to take, like, let's use Belial, for example. If you have a project you have to get done, very tough project, or some obstacle in your work, Belial is the Lord of the earth, bestowing senatorships, etc. That relates to power that you accumulate. And that's using the laws of Belial in the Bible, the adversary. Apply them, see the results. That's where the sigil comes in. You can eventually apply this structure that I have in Goetia of Shadows, and the color structure based on the planets and the astrological and elemental concepts of the 72 that Adam Iniquity painted, and take it to any different type of magic. And you'll find left-hand path practice, Luciferian practice, will change your life. It will make you and your daemon essentially a god in your own right, in your own world. Not meaning that you're better than this person or that person, or you're an asshole. It just means that you choose the course in which you can go in life. That's the whole point. In reference to ritual magic tools, instruments that you use in invocation, obviously you need the sigil. I've explained what type of substance you use for the sigil, be it parchment, previously pewter designed goetic sigil, if you can find one, whatever that is, your own carving. You can even use an altar cloth to help project the seal or the spirit's essence during your meditation daily, and focusing on the specific working that you're doing. The other thing you're going to need is some type of wand. Now, wands have their foundation in early Mesopotamian, Sumerian, Assyrian, Babylonian ritual practice. And the underworld gods use something called a caduceus. Now, I have one that I've used for a while now. That's a caduceus. It's actually I got it at an antique store, and I've not seen another like it. I know it's from Europe. It's probably about 20 years old, maybe more. Doesn't matter. It's the exact symbol of Ningisida, which is the two serpents from the shoulders, the Basmu, from which the Persian legend of Azi Dahak obviously was influenced. underworld god, fertility god, also a god associated with the dead. He resided in the Babylonian, Sumerian underworld with Ereshkigal, the queen of the dead, and Nergal, the god of war and darkness and the dead. But nonetheless, this type of wand survived over to Greek necromantical practice, and Hermes was the one who held the wand, the caduceus, and compelled and commanded the shades of the dead onward. So I use a small caduceus that I can carry anywhere. Obviously I don't carry robes around in public and, break out with the ritual paraphernalia there. I have a lot of discreet ways of doing workings if I have to go in a public setting to where I'm unnoticed virtually. Moving on to the symbolism quickly, I'd like to say that, Lucifer, Maon, and Beelzebub, because of his foundation, and Belial are featured illustrated in the Goetia of Shadows. Now, as I've said, Adam Iniquity did a fantastic job on Lucifer, fleshing out Lucifer, because I described the various elements, suggestions, and he put them in his own meditations and workings, and these things were painstaking for him to do. But if you look at the Lucifer on the cover of and it's in the black and white too, but the color version you have to see, because the elements of Zeus, Ammon, all the different specific deific masks that made the rebel Lucifer are in the specific altar image for this deific mask. And the symbolism, everything has a specific deep meaning. I urge you to explore the foundations of how Luciferianism was kind of fueled into a modern age. We're not devil worshippers. It goes back to the balance in darkness, using darkness as your foundation, your strength towards light, your instinct, your drive to achieving your goals. One thing with the spirits in the Goetia, especially with Lucifer, who's I established that in the back of the grimoire, are the specific planetary deific masks that made, or different forms of Lucifer, or the adversary. So take time to look at those as well. Anyway, I look forward to your comments and how you apply Goetia of Shadows in the near future. Thank you.